The awakening took 6 months. The scientists who designed the archive had been careful. Waking 43,000 people too quickly could cause medical complications or social chaos. Each group needed time to adjust, to grieve, to understand what had happened to their species. Sujin was among the first to fully recover. She immediately began working with the Guardians, checking the quantum consciousness networks and confirming that the backup systems had remained stable for 3 centuries. Every human in the archive had their mind safely stored across multiple locations throughout the Sol system. "We are functionally immortal now," she explained to Ji-hoon. "Even if someone kills our body, we can be restored. The galaxy tried to make us extinct. They failed. Others woke with different skills and priorities. Minho was a terraforming engineer who immediately started planning how to restore Earth's poisoned ecosystems. Yuna was a cultural historian who began documenting everything that happened during and after the purge. She wanted future generations to remember, to learn, to never forget. The awakened humans struggled with their new reality. Many had left families behind when they entered cryosleep, hoping to reunite after the crisis passed. Now those families were 3 centuries dead. Earth was a ruin. Humanity existed only in this small population of survivors and 13 enhanced guardians. But humans were resilient. They mourned, they wept, and then they got to work. True to his word, Ji-hoon established tribunals on Earth. The 7 council species that participated in the purge were summoned to answer for their crimes. Some came willingly, others were brought by force. The Guardians did not negotiate. Ambassador Mirai arrived first, representing the Saltorian Confederacy. She brought extensive documentation of her people's crimes, names of officials who approved the genocide, corporations that profited from stripping Earth's resources, military officers who led attack fleets. "We cannot undo what was done," she said before the assembled tribunal, "but we can acknowledge it. We can take responsibility. We can do better." The tribunal did not offer forgiveness, but they did acknowledge the Saltorians' honesty. Reparations were set. War criminals would be extradited to Earth for trial, and the Saltorian government would provide material support for Earth's reconstruction. Other species were less cooperative. The Vrexian representative denied everything, claiming the purge was justified self-defense. The tribunal sentenced him to life imprisonment and demanded that the hegemony send a different representative who would take responsibility. The trials were not revenge. They were accountability. Every crime was documented. Every victim was named. The galaxy watched, and slowly, public opinion began to shift. Meanwhile, the Vrexian hegemony was tearing itself apart. Warlord Kyungsoo had returned with his tail between his legs, having lost the largest battle fleet in history. Vrexian colonies began declaring independence. Subject species rose in rebellion. The iron grip that had ruled for centuries was weakening. Commander Taejin found himself leading a faction of moderate Vrexians who wanted peace. He had seen the Guardians fight. More importantly, he had seen them show mercy. He believed that coexistence was possible, but only if his people took responsibility for their crimes. He traveled to Earth against the advice of his colleagues. Many Vrexians considered him a traitor, but Taejin believed that facing the truth was better than living in denial. Ji-hoon met him at the entrance to the tribunal building. The two studied each other in silence. 3 centuries of hatred stood between them. But also reluctant respect. "We were monsters," Taejin said quietly. "Not all of us. Not always, but enough and too often." "Then do better," Ji-hoon replied. "Be better. That is all we have ever asked." The reconstruction of Earth began in earnest. Minho led teams of engineers and scientists in the massive project of restoring the planet. They used technology that combined Guardian innovations with the knowledge of the awakened civilians. Dead zones were cleaned of radiation. Poisoned water was purified. Forests were replanted with genetic samples preserved in the archive. Slowly, impossibly, Earth began to heal. The awakened humans did not just rebuild what was destroyed. They transformed it. Cities rose that blended old human architecture with new technologies. Parks and gardens replaced the monuments to Vrexian victory. Earth became a living memorial to those who died, a promise that they would never be forgotten. Yuna established the Great Archive in what was once Sol. It contained every name, every face, every story of the humans who died in the purge. Visitors from across the galaxy came to walk through the halls and see the cost of genocide. Many left in tears. The Galactic Council sent a formal delegation to Earth asking humanity to join as equal members, not subjects, not vassals, true equals with full sovereignty and veto power. Jihoon gathered the awakened humans to discuss the offer. The debate was intense. Some wanted isolation, believing the galaxy could not be trusted. Others argued that humanity had always been explorers, always reaching out to make connections. Sujin warned that integration risked corruption. Minyo countered that isolation bred stagnation. Yuna believed humanity's story could teach the galaxy empathy and prevent future genocides. After weeks of discussion, humanity made its decision. They would engage with the galaxy, but on their terms. Earth would remain sovereign. The Guardians would remain vigilant. Humanity would never again be defenseless or dependent on others for protection. Ambassador Mirai received the news with relief. "The galaxy needs your voice," she told Jihoon. "We have lived too long by the principle that might makes right. You can help us build something better." "We will try," Jihoon replied carefully, "but we will never forget, and we will never forgive those who have not earned it." In a quiet moment, Jihoon stood in the memorial gardens with his fellow Guardians. Hyejin, Doyeon, and Jiwon had fought beside him for months. They had protected the awakening. They had ensured humanity's survival. Now they faced an uncertain future. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Hyejin asked. "Showing mercy to some of our people's killers?" Jihoon looked at the restored forests around them, at the children playing in gardens that had been dead ruins 6 months ago. He thought about Sujin and Minho and Yuna and all the others who were rebuilding human civilization. "Our people did not build us to be instruments of vengeance," he said slowly. "They built us to be guardians. We protected what remained. We gave our species a future. That is enough. What do we do now?" Jiwon asked. "We train the next generation," Doyeon suggested. "We teach them to defend themselves. We ensure this never happens again." Jihoon nodded. "The galaxy learned to fear us. Now we teach them to respect us, and if they forget, we remind them." A message went out to every civilization in the galaxy. It was not from Jihoon or any guardian. It was from Sujin and the other awakened scientists. They announced that quantum consciousness technology was now operational. Humanity was functionally immortal, their minds backed up across networks that spanned the Sol system. The message was clear. "You tried to kill us once. You failed. We have ensured you will never succeed again. We offer the galaxy partnership, not domination. We will share our knowledge, our culture, our perspective. But understand this, Earth will never fall. Humanity will never end. We are the species that survives. Remember that." The galaxy received the message with mixed emotions. Fear, yes, but also hope. Because if humanity could survive extinction and return stronger, perhaps there was hope for other endangered species. Perhaps the old order, where the strong did as they pleased, was finally changing. 50 years passed. Earth became one of the jewels of the galaxy, a center of art, science, and philosophy. The Guardians trained new defenders, ensuring that humanity would always have protectors. The quantum consciousness technology was shared carefully with species that earned humanity's trust. Jihoon, now semi-retired, taught at the Guardian Academy on Luna. Students from dozens of species came to learn from the legendary Sentinel. He was a living reminder of humanity's darkest hour and brightest hope. One day, a young Vrexian cadet approached him nervously. "Guardian Jihoon, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you hate us for what our ancestors did?" Jihoon considered the question carefully. He looked at the young cadet, barely 20 years old, born long after the Purge. He thought about all the years of anger, all the pain, all the loss. "No," he said finally. "Hate would mean I still fear you. I do not. Your generation has learned from the past. The galaxy has learned. And if anyone forgets, if any species decides that might makes right again, the Guardians will be here to remind them." "What is your promise?" the cadet asked. "That we are humanity's memory made manifest. That we will never let our people be forgotten. That Earth will stand as a reminder to the galaxy that every species deserves respect. Every life has value and genocide has consequences." The young Vrexian nodded solemnly. "I will remember." "Good," Jihoon said gently. "Then our work is not in vain." That night, Jihoon stood on the observation deck of the Luna Academy. Below him, Earth shone green and blue, alive and thriving. Around it, Guardian stations gleamed like steel sentinels, watching, protecting, remembering. 43,000 humans had awakened and built a new civilization. Millions more would be born in the coming years. Humanity had returned from extinction, transformed but unbroken. The journey to Titan took 2 days. Ji-hoon spent most of that time reviewing the incomplete files about the archive. According to the fragments he could recover, the facility had been humanity's final backup plan. If Earth fell, if the species was destroyed, there would be survivors waiting to rebuild. What if there's nothing there? Ji-won asked quietly. What if the facility was destroyed during the purge? Then we're truly the last humans in existence, Ji-hoon replied. And we continue the mission anyway. Titan appeared on their sensors, a frozen moon orbiting Saturn. The archive was hidden deep beneath the ice, shielded by layers of rock and ancient defensive systems. As they approached, Ji-hoon's ship detected an automated beacon. It was broadcasting in old human code, a language that only Guardians would recognize. The message was simple. We are still here. We are still waiting. Come home. Hyejin's hands shook as she piloted their ship toward the landing coordinates. Doyen ran security scans constantly, checking for traps or Vrexian surveillance. Ji-won simply stared at the moon's surface with hope and fear warring in her expression. They landed near the hidden entrance. The facility's doors recognized their Guardian credentials and opened smoothly despite 3 centuries of disuse. Inside, the lights activated automatically, revealing corridors that stretched deep into Titan's frozen core. And everywhere, there were cryopods. Thousands of them, tens of thousands, all showing active life signs. How many? Ji-hoon whispered. Doyen checked the central computer. 43,207 humans. All in perfect stasis, all waiting to wake up. These were not warriors. The database identified them as civilians, scientists, engineers, teachers, artists, doctors, farmers, families with children. A complete cross-section of human civilization, preserved like seeds waiting for spring. They succeeded, Hyejin said, reading through the research files. The quantum consciousness technology, it works. Every person in cryostasis has their mind backed up across quantum networks throughout the Sol system. Even if their bodies die, they can be restored. Humanity achieved functional immortality. Ji-hoon sat down heavily. For 3 centuries he had believed that humanity was gone, that he and his fellow Guardians were the last echoes of a dead species. Now he learned that humanity had survived, transformed, evolved, and waited patiently for someone to wake them up. We need to tell the galaxy, Ji-won said. If they know humans survived, they will do everything in their power to destroy this facility, Ji-hoon interrupted. Before anyone wakes, before humanity returns, we tell no one until we are ready. But secrets have a way of escaping. A Vrexian spy satellite in deep orbit around Saturn detected the unusual energy readings from Titan. Within hours, the information reached Warlord Kyung-soo. The warlord's reaction was immediate and predictable. He assembled the largest battle fleet in galactic history, 8,000 warships from 16 different species. Every government that feared the Guardians contributed ships. Every corporation that had profited from Earth's destruction provided weapons. They had one mission: destroy the archive before the sleepers could wake. Eliminate humanity once and for all. Ambassador Mirai learned about the fleet through her intelligence network. She sent an urgent message to Ji-hoon, warning him of the coming attack. She also sent a formal request to meet with the Guardians, representing the peace faction of the Council. Ji-hoon agreed to the meeting. They met in neutral space aboard a small diplomatic vessel. Mirai arrived with only 2 aides, showing trust that few others would dare. Ji-hoon came alone. We can stop this war, Mirai said immediately. My faction offers full reparations for the purge. We will put Vrexian war criminals on trial. We will issue a formal apology and return everything stolen from Earth. Please give peace a chance. Ji-hoon listened quietly. When she finished, he asked a single question. If we were still weak, would you offer this? Mirai opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. The silence stretched between them. Finally, she nodded. No, we would not. The galaxy respects only strength. I am sorry. At least you are honest, Ji-hoon said. Here is my counteroffer. Humanity will return. We will rebuild Earth. We will exist outside Council authority. We will be sovereign and independent. Any species that objects can settle the matter directly with the Guardians. This is not negotiable. You are declaring independence from the entire galactic order, Mirai said slowly. We are declaring that we will never again allow others to decide our fate. Take the offer to your peace faction. You have 48 hours. The Vrexian armada arrived at Titan exactly on schedule. 8,000 warships in perfect formation. The most powerful military force ever assembled in one location. Against them stood 13 Guardian stations and a few dozen smaller ships. The odds were impossible. The Guardians were outnumbered 600 to 1. It should have been a slaughter. Warlord Kyung-soo broadcast his terms. Surrender the archive or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes. Ji-hoon's response was immediate. No. The battle began. Do-yeon had spent weeks preparing for this moment. He had studied Titan's unique environment, its rings, its gravity wells, its magnetic fields. He had turned the entire moon into a weapon. When the Vrexian fleet entered attack range, he activated systems that had been carefully positioned over days of preparation. Titan's rings, usually peaceful bands of ice and rock, became a storm of debris moving at deadly speeds. Do-yeon had planted small thrusters throughout the rings, allowing him to direct massive chunks of ice like missiles. Hundreds of Vrexian ships were crushed or disabled in the first 10 minutes. Hyejin's contribution was even more devastating. She had hacked into the communication networks of the enemy fleet, something that should have been impossible with military-grade encryption. But Hyejin was not just a weapons expert. She was a genius at understanding systems and finding their weaknesses. She uploaded a virus that turned enemy ships against each other. Friend or foe systems malfunctioned, targeting computers locked onto allied vessels. Chaos spread through the fleet faster than the commanders could respond. Ji-won and her infiltration team had already planted agents on 47 capital ships. They activated simultaneously, sabotaging engines, weapons, and life support. Massive warships drifted helplessly or exploded from internal damage, and Ji-hoon stopped thinking like a soldier and started thinking like a guardian. He was not trying to win a battle. He was protecting something precious. He was defending the last hope of his species. And there was nothing in the universe that could stop a human protecting what they loved. He flew through the enemy fleet like a force of nature. His combat suit generated shields that deflected attacks. His weapons fired with impossible accuracy. He moved faster than targeting computers could track. And everywhere he went, Vrexian ships fell silent. The battle raged for 18 hours. Slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. The Guardians were not just holding their ground. They were winning. Then something unexpected happened. Elements of the Vrexian fleet began to surrender. Not out of mercy or compassion, but out of cold calculation. They realized that if they destroyed the archive, the Guardians would hunt them forever. There would be no peace, no negotiation, only endless revenge. But if they withdrew, if they let the sleepers live, maybe they could survive. Maybe humanity would accept peace. Commander Taejin, who had first encountered Ji-hoon months ago, led the defectors. He broadcast on all channels. This is Commander Taejin to all Vrexian forces. Ceasefire immediately. This is not a battle we can win. This is not a cause worth dying for. I am ordering all ships under my command to withdraw. Hundreds of ships followed his lead. They powered down weapons and retreated to safe distance. The fleet that had seemed unstoppable fractured into chaos. Warlord Kyung-soo watched his armada collapse with rage and despair. He made a desperate decision. He would ram his flagship directly into the archive facility. A suicide strike that would take the sleepers with him. If humanity returns, the galaxy will never know peace, he screamed at his bridge crew. This ends now. Ji-hoon intercepted the flagship. He landed on its hull and burned through the armor with cutting tools. Inside, he fought his way to the bridge through automated defenses and elite guards. Nothing stopped him. He found Kyung-soo on the bridge, manually overriding the navigation systems to ensure the suicide strike would succeed. The warlord turned to face him, weapon drawn. You cannot stop this, Kyung-soo snarled. Even if you kill me, the ship will complete its course. Then I will not kill you, Ji-hoon replied. Not yet. What followed was brutal. Ji-hoon dismantled the warlord's defenses and knocked him unconscious. Then he manually took control of the flagship, using Guardian codes that could override any system. He stopped the suicide strike with seconds to spare. When Kyung-soo woke, he was in a cell aboard a Guardian station. Ji-hoon stood outside the force field watching him. You should have killed me, Kyung-soo said bitterly. I am sending you back to Vrexian space, Ji-hoon replied. You will deliver a message. Tell your people that Earth is awake. Tell them the Guardians have decided your fate. Tell them we are coming, not for conquest, but for justice. The mining colony on Talvesh Prime was home to 15,000 civilians from 6 different species. They worked in the asteroid mines, extracting rare metals that powered the galaxy's technology. It was hard work but peaceful. Until the Ravagers arrived. Jiwan received the distress call first. Her station's long-range sensors picked up the attack in real time. She watched helplessly as the enhanced Vrexian soldiers tore through the colony's defenses in minutes. The Ravagers were fast, brutal, and efficient. They killed anyone who resisted and enslaved everyone else. Jihoon, we have a situation, Jiwan reported. The Vrexians have deployed their new weapons. They're slaughtering civilians. Jihoon was in the middle of analyzing intelligence data from Ambassador Mirai. He stopped immediately. How long until we can reach Talvesh Prime? 4 hours at maximum speed, Doyen calculated. But by then thousands will be dead, Jihoon finished. Prepare all combat units. We leave now. The Guardians moved with incredible speed. Their ships were smaller than conventional warships, but infinitely faster. They cut through space using technology that the galaxy had never seen. Technology that humanity had developed in secret before the Purge. When they arrived at Talvesh Prime, the carnage was worse than expected. The Ravagers had killed 4,000 civilians and were working on the rest. Jihoon watched the massacre through his ship's sensors and felt something he had not allowed himself to feel since awakening. Pure rage. Hyejin, what's the safest way to engage without harming civilians? He asked. There isn't one, she replied grimly. The Ravagers are using the colonists as shields. We'll have to go in close. Hand to hand. Jihoon smiled coldly inside his helmet. Perfect. The Guardians descended on Talvesh Prime like avenging angels. Jihoon led the assault, his combat suit blazing with power. The Ravagers saw him coming and opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts, railgun rounds, explosive charges. None of it mattered. Jihoon's suit absorbed the attacks and converted them into energy. He moved faster than the Ravagers could track, closing the distance in seconds. The first Ravager he encountered was 7 feet tall, covered in enhanced armor, and carrying a weapon that could vaporize tanks. Jihoon tore through him like paper. The battle that followed was not a battle. It was an execution. The Ravagers were strong, fast, and well-trained, but they were crude copies of humanity. The Guardians were the perfected originals. Each Guardian was a masterpiece of genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancement, and 300 years of preparation. Doyen coordinated their movements with surgical precision. He identified every Ravager position and directed his team to eliminate them with minimal civilian casualties. Hyejin provided covering fire from orbit, using pinpoint strikes that killed Ravagers without touching the buildings around them. And Jiwan, she moved through the colony like death itself. Silent, invisible, unstoppable. Ravagers would be standing guard one moment and simply fall dead the next, never knowing what killed them. But the worst part, the part that the galaxy would remember, was Jihoon's confrontation with the Ravager commander. His name was Grokth, and he had been enhanced with DNA taken from human prisoners. He thought this made him humanity's equal. He was wrong. You're the Guardian everyone fears? Grokth laughed. You're just one man. We are the future. Humanity made better. Jihoon said nothing. He simply attacked. What followed was broadcast across the galaxy. Every news network, every military channel. Everyone watched as Jihoon dismantled the Ravager commander piece by piece. He broke bones, shattered armor, and all the while he spoke in a calm, cold voice. You are not human. You are an insult to humanity. You were made from our stolen flesh by butchers who understood nothing about us. You think you have our strength? You have nothing. Because strength was never what made humans special. He tore off Grokth's helmet and forced him to look at the dead civilians around them. What made us special was that we cared. We protected the weak. We died for strangers. We built civilizations on hope and compassion. You're just a weapon, and weapons break. Jihoon ended the Ravager commander quickly after that. Not from mercy, but because there was nothing left to prove. The remaining Ravagers retreated in complete disorder. They fled Talvesh Prime, abandoning their mission and their wounded. The civilians watched in stunned silence as the Guardians ensured their safety, provided medical aid, and began repairs on the damaged colony. Why did you help us? A young alien child asked Jihoon. Your people are gone. Why do you care about ours? Jihoon knelt down to the child's level. Because humans always cared. That was who we were. The galaxy forgot that. They only remembered that we fought. But we fought because we cared. About justice. About freedom. About protecting those who could not protect themselves. The child hugged him. Jihoon stood still, unsure how to respond. It had been centuries since anyone had shown him kindness. Finally, awkwardly, he patted the child's head. After Talvesh Prime, the galaxy's mood shifted dramatically. News of the battle spread faster than light-speed communications. Everyone had seen the Guardians fight. More importantly, everyone had seen them show mercy. The Guardians could have destroyed the entire colony to eliminate the Ravagers. Instead, they risked themselves to save civilians. Smaller species that had stayed neutral began to wonder if the Guardians were truly the monsters that Vrexian propaganda claimed. Some even started to hope that maybe, just maybe, the Guardians would bring justice to a galaxy that had operated on the principle of might makes right for too long. But others grew more afraid, because if the Guardians could be merciful, it meant they were choosing when to be cruel. And choice was far more terrifying than simple violence. Jihoon addressed this concern directly in his next broadcast. He stood in the ruins of the Talvesh Prime mining headquarters, surrounded by grateful civilians. The galaxy fears us because you do not understand us. Let me be clear. We do not punish silence. We do not attack the innocent. We seek justice, not revenge. The Vrexians led the purge. The council sanctioned it. Corporations profited from it. Those who participated will answer for their crimes. Everyone else? You have a choice. Stand aside or stand with the guilty. The Galactic Council split down the middle. Half of the member species wanted immediate negotiations. They saw the writing on the wall. The Guardians were too powerful to fight, too principled to bribe, and too angry to ignore. Better to make peace while it was still possible. The other half, led by Warlord Kyung-Soo, demanded total war. They argued that the Guardians represented an existential threat to galactic order. If one extinct species could return and demand accountability, what would stop others from doing the same? The entire power structure of the galaxy would collapse. Ambassador Mirai led the peace faction. She worked tirelessly, gathering support from moderate species. She proposed a truth and reconciliation process, trials for war criminals, reparations for Earth, a formal apology for the purge. Kyung-Soo seized control of the Council's military forces through a combination of threats, bribes, and political maneuvering. He declared the Guardians a threat to all civilized species and authorized unlimited force to eliminate them. Meanwhile, Yejin made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the Guardian archives, in files that even Jihoon had not fully explored, she found the truth about the purge. It was not about human resistance to annexation. That was just the excuse. Humanity had been on the verge of a scientific breakthrough, quantum consciousness technology, that would allow human minds to exist independent of their bodies, functional immortality, the ability to back up thoughts, memories, and personality across quantum networks. The Vrexians and their allies had learned about this research through spies. They realized that if humanity achieved quantum consciousness, they would become unkillable, impossible to control, too dangerous to coexist with. So they struck first, fast and with overwhelming force. The purge was not a response to human aggression. It was a preventive genocide to stop humanity from transcending biological limitations. Hyejin brought this information to Jihoon. He read through the files in silence, his expression unreadable behind his helmet. When he finished, he asked one simple question. Did they succeed? Did we achieve quantum consciousness before the purge? I don't know, Hyejin admitted. The files are incomplete. But there's a reference to a facility on Titan, a place called the Archive. If any humans survived, if the technology worked, they would be there. Jihoon made his decision immediately. We find the Archive. We learn the truth. And then we decide what happens next. As the Guardians prepared to travel to Titan, Jihoon released another piece of evidence to the galaxy. Not an accusation, not a threat, just raw data. Video footage from before the purge. Humans laughing, humans crying, humans creating art, building cities, raising children, exploring their solar system. He showed the galaxy who humans really were. Not warriors, not threats, just people. People who wanted to live, learn, and grow. People who were murdered because they dared to dream of a better future. The video ended with a simple message. This is what you destroyed. This is who we were. Remember us. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from 43 species crowded the Grand Chamber, all of them shouting at once. Ambassador Mirai of the Saltorian Confederacy watched the panic with quiet concern. She had warned them this day might come. No one had listened. Order. The council speaker slammed his gavel repeatedly. We must have order. At the center of the chamber stood Warlord Kyung-Soo of the Vrexian hegemony. His scaled face showed no emotion, but Mirai could see the tension in his posture. The survivors of Commander Taejin's patrol had brought back terrifying news. The humans were not extinct. Some had survived, and they were very, very angry. This is a minor problem, Kyung-Soo declared, his voice booming across the chamber. One human with stolen technology. We will send a proper battle fleet and eliminate this final remnant. The purge will be completed. One human destroyed 3 warships in seconds, a council member protested. How is that minor? Kyung-Soo waved a dismissive hand. Humans were always clever with tricks, but they were weak. We proved that 300 years ago. This guardian, as he calls himself, is simply the last of a dead species. We will make sure he joins his people in extinction. Mirai stood up slowly. Warlord Kyung-Soo, perhaps we should consider negotiation. If humans survived, we owe them nothing. Kyung-Soo roared. They refused to join civilized society. They chose destruction. This is not our fault. Deep in the Sol system, Ji-hoon floated in the command center of his station. Around him, holographic displays showed the status of every Guardian facility. 13 stations total. All of them were now active. All of them were waking their sleeping defenders. Hyejin was the first to join him. She emerged from her cryopod with a gasp, her enhanced body adjusting to consciousness in seconds. She was the weapons specialist, the one who could turn anything into a tool of destruction. She looked at Ji-hoon with questions in her eyes. How long? She asked. 312 years. Ji-hoon replied quietly. Hyejin closed her eyes. And our people? Gone, all of them. Next came Doyen, the tactical genius. Then Ji-won, the infiltration expert. One by one, the Guardians woke from their long sleep. Each one received the same terrible news. Humanity was extinct. Earth was dead. They were all that remained. What do we do now? Ji-won asked. She was young, barely 20 when she entered cryosleep. Now she was the last of her generation. Ji-hoon looked at his team. 13 Guardians. Against an entire galaxy. The odds were impossible. But humans had always excelled at impossible tasks. We make them remember, Ji-hoon said. We make them pay. The Vrexian battle fleet arrived at the Sol system 3 weeks later. 200 warships, the largest military force assembled in decades. They came with overwhelming firepower and absolute confidence. Commander Taejin had been relieved of duty for cowardice. The new fleet commander, Admiral Sang-ho, had orders to sterilize every Guardian station and end this threat permanently. All ships, advance to attack formation, Sang-ho commanded. Target the largest station first. Fire on my mark. The fleet moved forward in perfect military precision. They never saw Hyejin coming. She had spent 3 weeks studying their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. She had converted one of the smaller Guardian stations into a massive electromagnetic pulse generator. When the Vrexian fleet crossed into range, she activated it. 47 ships went dark instantly. Their power cores failed. Their weapons shut down. Their life support began to drain. The vessels drifted helplessly in space. Dead metal coffins for their crews. What happened? Sang-ho screamed at his bridge crew. Report. Unknown electromagnetic interference, Admiral. It's coming from everywhere at once. Our shields can't. Doyen struck next. He had been running battle simulations constantly since awakening. He knew exactly where the Vrexian fleet would position itself. He had mined that entire sector of space with devices so small and sophisticated that no scanner could detect them. Now he triggered them all at once. 32 more ships exploded in brilliant spheres of light. The carefully organized fleet formation collapsed into chaos. Retreat, Sang-ho ordered. Full retreat! But Ji-won had already infiltrated 3 of their command vessels. She moved through the ships like a ghost, using passages and vents that the Vrexians did not even know existed. She did not kill anyone. She simply locked them in their quarters and took control of their weapon systems. The 3 infiltrated vessels opened fire on their own fleet. In 6 hours, the Vrexian force was destroyed. Only 20 ships escaped. The rest were either destroyed or drifting powerlessly in space. The Guardians had not lost a single soldier. Ji-hoon stood on the surface of Earth for the first time in centuries. His combat suit protected him from the radiation that still poisoned parts of the planet. Around him stretched the ruins of what had once been Seoul, his home. Now it was just rubble and mass graves. The other guardians joined him silently. They walked through the destroyed city, seeing the evidence of genocide everywhere. The Vrexians had not just killed humans. They had tried to erase every trace of human existence. Buildings were leveled, monuments destroyed. Even the trees had been burned, but they had failed. Because the Guardians remembered every face, every name, every person who died in the purge. Their neural implants contained the complete archive of human civilization. As long as one Guardian lived, humanity would never be truly dead. They built this, Hyejin said quietly, pointing at a massive stone monument. It was written in the Vrexian language. The translation made Ji-hoon's blood boil with rage. Here fell the human species. Let this world serve as a warning to all who defy the Vrexian hegemony. Submit or perish. Doyen placed his hand on Ji-hoon's shoulder. What do we do? Ji-hoon accessed the communication systems in his suit. He opened a channel to every civilized system in the galaxy, every planet, every station, every ship. When he spoke, his voice carried to trillions of beings across 1,000,000 worlds. My name is Ji-hoon. I am Guardian Sentinel of Earth, last defender of the human species. 300 years ago, the Vrexian hegemony committed genocide against my people. The Galactic Council allowed it. 7 other species helped them. Corporations grew rich stripping our world, and everyone else stayed silent. He paused, letting his words sink in across light years of space. The Guardians invoke the ancient human protocol. We do not seek peace. We seek accountability. Every species that participated will answer for their crimes. Every government that stayed silent will be judged. This is not a war. This is a reckoning. Earth remembers, and we are coming, the message ended. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. In her office, Ambassador Mireille made a decision. She encrypted a secure transmission and sent it directly to the Sol system, to Ji-hoon. In it, she included intelligence her people had gathered over the centuries. Names, dates, evidence of who had helped the Vrexians, which species had profited, which corporations had stripped Earth's resources. She did not know if this would save her people, but she knew it was the right thing to do. Ji-hoon received the transmission and studied it carefully. The Saltorians had opposed the purge but lacked the military strength to stop it. They had helped evacuate some human colonies before the final attacks. They had voted against the council resolution that declared humans a hostile species. Should we trust her? Hyejin asked. Trust? No, Ji-hoon replied. But we can accept her information, and we can give her people a chance to prove their regret through actions. Deep in Vrexian territory, Warlord Kyung-soo unveiled a secret that his government had kept hidden for 3 centuries. Before the purge, Vrexian scientists had captured human prisoners. They had experimented on them, studying human genetics and neural patterns. They had extracted DNA and used it to enhance their own soldiers. The Ravager Corps was born from that research. Super soldiers with human strength, human endurance, and human stubbornness, combined with Vrexian aggression and discipline. Kyung-soo believed they were the perfect weapon against the Guardians. Hyejin intercepted the classified transmission about the Ravager Corps. She watched the data with growing horror and rage. They had tortured humans, used them as test subjects, created monsters from the bodies of her people. She showed the message to Ji-hoon. He watched in silence. They think they know what we are, Hyejin said finally. Her voice was cold and hard. They have no idea. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. Then we show them. Commander Taejin stared at his display screen with growing confusion. The energy readings made no sense. His ship, the Vrexian warship Crimson Talon, had been patrolling the edge of the Sol system for 3 weeks without incident. This sector of space was supposed to be empty, dead, just like the planet Earth itself. Commander, the signature is getting stronger, Lieutenant Hana said from her station. Her voice carried an edge of worry that Taejin rarely heard from his second-in-command. It's coming from beyond Neptune's orbit, deep in the debris field. Taejin drummed his clawed fingers on his command chair. The Sol system was forbidden territory. 300 years ago, the Vrexian hegemony had eliminated the human species for refusing to submit to annexation. Earth was now a monument to Vrexian power, a warning to other species who might think of resistance. No one came here anymore. There was nothing left to find. Take us closer, Tajin ordered. But keep weapons ready. The Crimson Talon moved deeper into the dark space between planets. 2 more Vrexian warships followed in formation. They were the pride of the hegemony fleet, each one capable of destroying entire cities. Yet as they approached the energy source, Tajin felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear. The structure emerged from the darkness like a ghost. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of Tajin's largest warship. The design was unlike anything in the galactic database. Smooth metal surfaces reflected the distant stars. Strange symbols covered the hull. Symbols that looked almost like human writing but far more complex. What is that thing? Hana whispered. A human station, Tajin said slowly. But this technology, humans were not this advanced. Our records show they were barely capable of leaving their own planet. The records could be wrong, Hana suggested. Tajin knew the records were not wrong. He had studied the Purge extensively. Humanity had been primitive, aggressive, and stubborn. They had refused every offer of peaceful integration. The hegemony had no choice but to eliminate them. It was unfortunate but necessary. That was what Tajin had always been taught. Scan the station, he commanded. I want to know everything about it. The scan results made his blood run cold. The station was operational. Power readings showed it had been in standby mode, but something had triggered its activation. Something had woken it up. Perhaps their arrival. Send a boarding party, Tajin decided. I want a team inside that station now. 20 Vrexian soldiers in combat armor launched from the warships. They approached the mysterious station with weapons drawn. Tajin watched through their helmet cameras as they reached the outer hull. One soldier placed a breaching charge on what looked like an airlock. The charge detonated. Nothing happened. The hull was undamaged. Use the plasma cutter, Tajin ordered. Before the soldiers could respond, the station came alive. Lights blazed across its surface. Weapon ports opened with mechanical precision, and then in less than 5 seconds, 3 beams of pure energy lanced out from the station. 2 of Tajin's warships simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. They were there one moment and gone the next, erased from reality. All ships retreat. Tajin screamed into his communicator. Full power to engines now. But the Crimson Talon was not fast enough. A smaller beam struck their engine core, crippling the ship but leaving it intact. They drifted helplessly in space, waiting for the final blow that would end them. The boarding party had vanished, disintegrated along with their transport craft. Then something emerged from the station. At first, Tajin thought it was a small fighter craft, but as it came closer, he realized with horror that it was a single figure in a combat suit. The suit was sleek and dark, almost organic in appearance. It moved through space with impossible grace, using small thrusters that left no visible trail. The figure landed on the hull of the Crimson Talon with a magnetic clamp. Through the external cameras, Tajin watched as it walked across the surface of his ship like a predator stalking prey. Then it tapped into their communications array. A voice filled every speaker on every surviving ship. It was human, male, and absolutely calm. This is Guardian Sentinel Jihoon of the Terran Defense Initiative, the voice said in perfect galactic common language. I have been in cryostasis for 312 years. I am awake now. And I have questions. Tajin found his voice. I am Commander Tajin of the Vrexian Imperial Fleet. We did not know anyone was here. Where are my people? Jihoon asked. The question was simple, direct, and somehow terrifying in its simplicity. Tajin hesitated. How could he explain the Purge to one of its victims? The human species. They no longer exist. The war ended 3 centuries ago. Silence. For 17 seconds there was only silence. Tajin could hear his own hearts beating in his chest. Around him his crew sat frozen at their stations, afraid to even breathe. Explain, Jihoon said finally. Humanity refused to join the Galactic Council, Tajin said, choosing his words carefully. They resisted annexation. The hegemony made the decision to eliminate the threat. Earth was sterilized. All human colonies were destroyed. It was believed that no humans survived. You committed genocide, Jihoon said. His voice had not changed. It remained calm and cold. Somehow that made it worse. It was war, Tajin protested weakly. It was murder. The figure pushed off from the hull and floated back toward his station. Tajin felt a moment of relief. Perhaps they would be spared. Perhaps the Guardian would let them go. Then Jihoon spoke again. I am going to let you live, Commander Tajin. You and your crew will return to Vrexian space. You will deliver a message to your leaders. Tell them that the Guardian has returned. Tell them that Earth remembers. Tell them that justice is coming. What about the others? Hana asked quietly, pointing at the scanner. The other stations. There are more of them. Tajin looked at his display. His blood turned to ice. All across the Sol system, power signatures were appearing. Dozens of them. Near Mars, in the asteroid belt. Around Jupiter's moons. On Saturn's rings, all of them identical to the first station. How many of you are there? Tajin whispered. Enough, Jihoon replied. More than enough. The remaining Vrexian warship next to the Crimson Talon suddenly exploded. Jihoon had destroyed it without warning, without mercy. Only Tajin's ship remained. Go now, the Guardian commanded. And remember what I said? Earth remembers. Tajin's crew worked frantically to restart their damaged engines. As they limped away from the Sol system, long-range sensors continued to track the awakening stations. One by one, they came online. One by one, the Guardians woke from their ancient sleep. Tajin knew that he had witnessed something terrible. The galaxy had destroyed humanity and forgotten about them. But humanity had not forgotten. They had waited. They had planned. And now they were awake. The commander looked at the dead planet Earth on his scanner. It did not look dead anymore. Lights were beginning to appear on its surface. The Guardians were going home. What have we done? Hana asked quietly. Tajin had no answer. He only knew that the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. You could kill a species. You could destroy their world. But you could not erase their memory. And you could never ever assume they were truly gone. The lost Guardian had returned. And now the galaxy would know real fear.